She was forced to marry blind billionaire in arranged marriage, unaware he deceived everyone to find true love. Hello my wonderful family. Welcome back to another heartfelt journey together. How did you enjoy our previous story about the impotent CEO who finally realized money can't buy everything? You know, your comments truly warmed my heart. Each like, each subscription, each beautiful message you leave, they're not just numbers to me. They're fuel for my soul, the encouragement that keeps me researching and writing these stories for you. When I see your engagement, it reminds me why I started this channel, to create a space where we can all feel connected through powerful human experiences. Before we begin today's journey, I felt heavy in my heart lately, and so I want to take a moment to send a prayer to each of you, my beloved family. May your hearts find peace in moments of chaos. May your spirits be lifted when burdens feel heavy. May your homes be sanctuaries of love and understanding. For those struggling today, with health, relationships, or purpose, I pray for strength to flow through you. May angels guard your dreams and protect your joy. Remember always, you are treasured, you are worthy, you are never walking alone. This blessing I send with every fiber of my being, wrapped in genuine love for each of you. Amen. Last night, I sat for hours, eyes burning but mind buzzing with details of this story. My desk covered with notes, 3 empty coffee mugs beside me, evidence of my dedication to getting every emotional nuance right for you. When my wife asked why I wouldn't just come to bed, I simply told her, my family deserves my absolute best. Because that's what you are to me, family. These aren't just stories I tell, they're experiences I craft with care, researching every detail until dawn breaks through my window. Your stories deserve nothing less than my absolute dedication. This particular story touched something deep within me during my research. There was a moment when I had to stop writing, walk away, and collect myself because it resonated so powerfully with choices I've faced in my own life. The journey we're about to take together isn't just entertainment, it's a reflection of the struggles many of us face when balancing family obligations against our own desires. So, join our family by hitting that subscribe button if you've not done that yet, settle in, perhaps grab a warm drink, and let's begin together with love. Amelia Johnson stood at the window of her new office in downtown Boston, watching the morning light reflect off the harbor. At 27, she had already made impressive strides in environmental architecture, specializing in sustainable urban development. Her portfolio boasted award-winning designs that harmonized modern living with nature's rhythms. Just 6 months ago, she'd been on track for partnership at a prestigious New York firm, a dream cultivated since her undergraduate days at MIT. That path now stood abandoned. 3 weeks ago, she'd received her father's call, his voice thin with worry. The family business needed her. Not her money, her presence. Her expertise. Her strength. So here she was, back in her hometown, dividing her time between remote freelance projects and the struggling Johnson's Home Goods, a store her grandfather had opened in 1951. The business had thrived for decades under her father Tony's management, until recent years when larger chains and online retailers began claiming their customer base. What defined Amelia most wasn't her professional accomplishments but her core values. Independence, she'd worked through college rather than accept full financial support from her parents. Loyalty, she'd never missed a weekly call home, even during her busiest seasons. Principles, she'd once walked away from a lucrative contract because the developer refused environmental impact modifications. Now these values were at war within her. The independent architect versus the loyal daughter. The principled professional versus the pragmatic family member. Each morning, she promised herself this arrangement was temporary. Each evening, seeing her father's exhaustion, she wondered if that was true. Amelia paused in the doorway of her father's study, watching him shuffle papers with trembling hands. The antique desk, another family heirloom, disappeared beneath stacks of invoices, past due notices, and bank statements, all bleeding red numbers. Tony Johnson looked up, his once confident posture now stooped, his face marked by stress lines that hadn't been there at Christmas. "Dad, you need to rest," she said, moving into the room. "Can't rest while the wolves are at the door," he replied, attempting a smile that faltered quickly. 3 generations, MIA. My grandfather started with a pushcart during the Depression. Dad turned it into a storefront. I expanded to 3 locations across Massachusetts. And now all 3 locations were failing simultaneously. The flagship Boston store, where they sat now, had lost 40% of its customer base to big box competitors. The Cape Cod location suffered from seasonal fluctuations they could no longer absorb. The Western Massachusetts store faced a rent increase they couldn't meet. Amelia picked up a medical bill from the pile. Her father's heart condition, diagnosed last year, required expensive medication. Treatment he sometimes skipped to pay employee salaries instead. "I promised your mother before she passed that I'd preserve her family's legacy," Tony said quietly. "That I'd make sure there was something for you to inherit someday." The weight of those expectations pressed down on Amelia's shoulders as she watched her father press a hand to his chest, a gesture that had become alarmingly frequent. 3 generations of work, 3 generations of dreams, all looking to her to prevent their collapse. "There might be a solution," Tony said, pulling a leather-bound folder from his desk drawer. "The Elwood family has made an offer." Amelia frowned. "The real estate developers?" "Dad, we've discussed this, selling the property isn't the answer." "Not selling," Tony corrected, his voice hesitant. "An arrangement. They've offered to clear our debts." "All of them?" "What's the catch?" Amelia asked, immediately suspicious. Tony couldn't meet her eyes. "Their son, Darius Elwood, needs a wife." The silence stretched between them until Amelia's shocked laugh broke it. "You can't be serious. This is 2025, not 1825. He lost his sight in an accident 5 years ago," Tony continued, as if she hadn't spoken. "He's managed well, runs parts of the family business, but the Elwoods want someone who'll support him, give him stability." "So they're shopping for a caretaker?" "And you volunteered me." Her voice rose with each word. "They specifically asked about you. They followed your work in sustainable architecture." Amelia paced the room, anger building. "You're selling me to save your business? That's what this amounts to." Tony flinched. "It's an introduction, not a sale. You'd have time to get to know him. A blind billionaire heir needs a wife, and you think I should apply for the position?" She shook her head in disbelief. "I wouldn't ask if there was any other way," Tony said, his voice breaking. "Please, Amelia. Just meet him once." She turned away, tears threatening. "I need air. Don't wait up." Midnight found Amelia sitting cross-legged on her childhood bed, surrounded by photographic evidence of a life once simple. Her high school graduation, arm in arm with her beaming parents. College move-in day, her mother fussing with curtains while her father pretended not to cry. The ribbon cutting at her first major design project, her parents having driven 6 hours to stand proudly in the back. Her mother had been gone 3 years now. Cancer, swift and merciless. The family had barely recovered from that loss when the business began its decline. Amelia traced her finger over her professional portfolio open on her laptop. The New York firm had given her a 6-month leave of absence, understanding but not indefinite. Her dreams waited there, concrete and glass monuments to sustainability. Dreams that would die if she accepted the Elwood proposal. "This is insane," she whispered to the empty room. Yet the alternative seemed equally impossible. Watching her father lose everything. Seeing the business that supported 3 generations of Johnsons dismantled and sold for parts. Witnessing her father's health deteriorate further under the weight of that failure. She thought of her mother's final days, how her father had never left her side. How he'd handled every medical decision, every moment of care with unwavering devotion. He'd sacrificed without hesitation for family. Could she do any less? By dawn, Amelia had made her decision. She would meet Darius Elwood once. Just once. She owed her family that much. Beyond that, she promised herself nothing. What she couldn't know was how completely that meeting would change everything. The Elwood estate materialized on the Rhode Island coastline like a vision from another world. Amelia's modest sedan seemed to shrink as it passed through the imposing iron gates and wound up the long, perfectly manicured driveway. The main house, if such an understated term could apply to this structure, perched on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic, its modernist design a bold statement against the traditional Newport mansions nearby. Glass and steel rose in clean, challenging lines against the sky. Solar panels integrated seamlessly into curved roof sections, while living walls of carefully cultivated native plants softened the building's authoritative presence. Despite herself, Amelia's architect's eye appreciated the sustainable elements incorporated into what was clearly a display of extreme wealth and power. As the car stopped at the entrance, Amelia's resentment resurged. This family could solve her father's problems with a single check, a sum they'd never miss, yet instead, they proposed this archaic arrangement. Miss Johnson. A tall, silver-haired woman appeared at the entrance. "I am Mrs. Winters, the house manager. Mr. Elwood is expecting you in the solarium." The woman's crisp British accent matched her immaculate appearance. She led Amelia through the entrance hall, where 20-foot ceilings and museum-quality art created an atmosphere of calculated intimidation. "The Elwoods have occupied this property for 4 generations," Mrs. Winters informed her, though Amelia hadn't asked. The current structure was completed 3 years ago to Mr. Darius's specifications, before his accident. Amelia noted the pause but said nothing as they approached a set of glass doors filled with golden afternoon light. The solarium stretched across the entire southern face of the house, a cathedral of glass and light. Plants from seemingly every continent thrived in carefully arranged groupings, creating an indoor botanical garden. At the center, seated with his back to the door, was a man. "Mr. Elwood," Mrs. Winters announced. "Miss Johnson has arrived." "Thank you, Mrs. Winters," he replied without turning. "Please leave us." The house manager retreated, closing the glass doors silently behind her. Amelia remained standing, studying the back of Darius Elwood's head. His posture was impeccable, spine straight against the chair's back, dark hair precisely cut and styled. He wore a charcoal suit that even Amelia could tell had been tailored to exact specifications. On a small table beside him rested a white cane and dark glasses, though he already wore another pair, sleek, matte black frames that concealed his eyes. "Miss Johnson," he said, still not turning. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me." His voice carried a quiet authority, cultured but not pretentious. Amelia moved forward, deliberately making her footsteps audible on the stone floor. "Let's be clear, I haven't agreed to anything yet." She walked around to face him directly, refusing to be dismissed as an afterthought. He turned then, his movements measured and precise. "And yet you're here." Something in his voice, confidence, perhaps arrogance, made her bristle. "Your father made an offer mine couldn't refuse. I wanted to see what kind of man buys himself a wife." A slight smile played at his lips. "And what kind of woman allows herself to be bought?" Amelia stepped closer. "The kind who values family above all else. Don't mistake my presence for submission, Mr. Elwood." "Darius, please." His head tilted slightly. "And I would never make such a mistake about you, Amelia Johnson. Your reputation precedes you. Would you show me your home?" Amelia asked, deliberately challenging. "I'd like to see what I'm supposedly agreeing to." Darius rose smoothly, reaching for his cane. "Of course. Though I should warn you, I know this place by heart. You won't need to guide me." As they walked through the estate, Amelia noted how confidently he moved. The cane seemed more accessory than necessity, tapping occasionally but often hardly touching the ground. He navigated around furniture with uncanny precision. The main living areas were designed for entertaining, he explained as they passed through a vast room with ocean views. "Though I rarely use them now." "Not much of a host?" she asked. "Not much interested in people who only see dollar signs when they look at me." His directness caught her off guard. They continued to his private library, where thousands of books lined shelves from floor to ceiling. "Do you read Braille?" she asked, noticing traditional books, not Braille volumes. "I have audiobooks," he replied smoothly. "The physical collection is from before." Their conversation shifted to architecture, and Amelia was surprised by his knowledge of sustainable design. "Your thesis on urban green spaces was revolutionary," he commented. "Your argument for integrating natural water filtration systems into city planning should be required reading." She frowned. "You've read my work." "Had it read to me," he corrected. "Your perspective aligns with my company's future direction." As they completed the tour, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling there was far more to Darius Elwood than met the eye. Amelia returned to the Elwood estate a day later, her mind buzzing with questions. Darius had invited her to continue their conversation about sustainable architecture, and while she told herself she came for professional reasons, curiosity drove her more than anything. They met again in the library, where Darius appeared comfortable among the books he supposedly couldn't read. As he described his company's interest in green building initiatives, Amelia studied his movements with newfound attention. "Would you mind if I looked at some of these volumes?" she asked, approaching a shelf. "Please do. The environmental section is to your left." She noted how he indicated direction perfectly, despite his claimed inability to see. While examining a rare first edition on urban planning, she deliberately let it slip from her fingers. The heavy book tumbled toward the floor. Before it landed, Darius's head turned precisely toward the sound. His reaction was too quick, too accurate for someone relying solely on hearing. "Clumsy of me," she murmured, retrieving the book. Later, she observed how he navigated around a coffee table that had been slightly moved since his last visit, without his cane touching it first. When she shifted her position, his head tracked her movement with subtle precision. "The light is particularly nice in here during afternoon hours," he commented at one point. "Is it?" she asked, eyebrow raised. "And how would you know that?" His smile remained neutral. "Mrs. Winters tells me." I remember how it used to look. But Amelia wasn't convinced. Each observation added to her growing theory that Darius Elwood's blindness might be an elaborate performance. A week after their first meeting, Amelia accepted Darius's invitation to dinner. The formal dining room gleamed with understated luxury, crystal glasses, fine china, and silver that reflected the candlelight. Every element was positioned with flawless precision, a table setting worthy of architectural appreciation in its symmetry and balance. Darius sat at the head of the table, his dark glasses replaced with a different pair for the evening, rimless and less severe. Mrs. Winters directed staff who moved with practiced efficiency, serving each course with choreographed grace. "Have you given any thought to our arrangement?" Darius asked after the appetizers had been cleared. Amelia set down her wine glass. "I've thought about little else. Though I'm still not convinced it's anything but archaic." "Perhaps," he acknowledged. "But sometimes traditional solutions can solve modern problems. My father's financial troubles are hardly solved by my sacrificing my independence." He leaned forward slightly. "Is that how you see it? A sacrifice? What would you call an arranged marriage to a stranger?" "I'd call it pragmatic. Your family needs financial security. I need a partner who sees beyond wealth and name." "And your blindness?" she asked. "Is that part of the appeal? Finding someone who won't be distracted by appearances." His expression remained impassive. "Do you find it difficult to look beyond disability?" "Not at all," she replied. "What I find difficult is dishonesty." As she spoke, Amelia deliberately knocked her napkin from her lap. It fluttered toward the floor in silent dissent. Before she could mention it, Darius bent sideways, hand extending with perfect accuracy to catch it before it reached the ground. He froze, napkin in hand, as their eyes met through his tinted lenses. "You can see, can't you?" she asked quietly. His face betrayed nothing. "What makes you say that?" Amelia stood abruptly. "Thank you for dinner, Mr. Elwood. I believe I've seen enough." She left without waiting for his response. Back in her apartment, Amelia's laptop glowed in the darkness as she dug through everything she could find about Darius Elwood. News archives revealed a different man than the one she'd met, a rising star in architectural circles before his accident, known for innovative designs that had won international acclaim. Articles from 5 years ago described a car accident in Dubai, reporting that the promising young architect had lost his sight. The story appeared in all major publications, with quotes from the Elwood family expressing gratitude that he had survived at all. Yet as Amelia delved deeper, she found peculiarities. No medical details were ever released. Darius had disappeared from public view for nearly a year after the accident, emerging only when the new Elwood estate, the one she'd visited, was completed. She found an interview with one of his former colleagues who mentioned that Darius had been working on revolutionary concepts for sustainable desert architecture right before the accident. Projects that were never completed. Most telling was a financial blog post speculating about unusual movements in Elwood industry stock just before and after the accident. The company had faced a hostile takeover attempt that mysteriously dissolved after Darius's return. By morning, Amelia had compiled enough inconsistencies to reinforce her suspicion. The timeline, the convenient disappearance, the perfectly timed business maneuvers, all pointed to a carefully crafted narrative. The question remained, why would a successful, wealthy man pretend to be blind? And why would his family support such an elaborate deception? Only one way to find out: direct confrontation. My dearest family, I need to pause our story here and ask you, do you think Amelia confronting him is the best choice, or should she have walked away right from here? Or if you were in her position, where you discovered someone had been lying to you about something so fundamental, would you confront them immediately or try to understand their reasons first? Amelia stands at this crossroads now, just as many of us have in our own lives. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters deeply to me, and I truly read every comment with an open heart. Also, if you're finding value in this journey so far, please tap that like button. It helps our family grow and ensures these stories reach others who might need them right now. 3 days after the dinner confrontation, Amelia returned to the Elwood estate. Mrs. Winters informed her that Darius was away at a business meeting but had left instructions to welcome her if she came by. Mr. Elwood mentioned you might be interested in the architectural history of the house manager said. Feel free to explore. Once alone, Amelia moved with purpose. If Darius was hiding something, there would be evidence somewhere in this vast house. She methodically checked rooms on the main floor before discovering a staircase that led to what appeared to be a private wing. At the end of a long hallway, she found a door left slightly ajar. Pushing it open revealed a studio bathed in natural light from floor-to-ceiling windows. Drawing tables occupied the center space, covered with precise blueprints with notes in a firm, confident hand. Along the walls stood architectural models, intricate, detailed constructions that showcased evolving designs for what looked like desert buildings. Each model showed remarkable attention to detail: miniature solar panels, tiny water collection systems, microscopic elements that would be impossible to create without perfect vision. Most telling was a model in progress on the main table. Fresh glue still glistened on newly placed elements. Tools lay precisely arranged beside it: X-Acto knives, tweezers, magnifying glasses. All instruments requiring exact visual precision. Amelia picked up a sketchbook. Page after page contained drawings dated within the past month, fluid, confident lines depicting building concepts that matched her own environmental philosophy. The evidence was undeniable. No blind person could have created these works. The deception was complete and deliberate. Finding anything interesting? Amelia whirled around. Darius stood in the doorway, his stance relaxed but his expression unreadable behind those ever-present dark glasses. "You're not at a business meeting," she said, voice steady despite her racing heart. "And you're not exploring the architectural history of my house. At least, not the parts Mrs. Winters intended to show you." He stepped into the studio, closing the door behind him. These models, Amelia gestured to the intricate creations surrounding them. The precision cutting, the detailed placement, impossible without sight. Darius remained silent, moving toward the center table where the newest model stood incomplete. "Why?" she demanded. "Why pretend to be blind? What possible reason could justify such an elaborate lie?" He reached up and removed his glasses, revealing intense blue eyes that locked directly onto hers. No vacancy, no wandering, just clear, focused vision. "You're more perceptive than I anticipated," he said finally. "Don't compliment my intelligence while insulting it at the same time," she shot back. "Answer the question. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be valued solely for your family name and bank account? To never know if someone wants you or what you can give them?" Bitterness edged his voice. "The blindness gave me key clarity. A way to find someone who would see beyond wealth and status." Amelia laughed incredulously. "By deceiving them? By testing them like lab rats?" You manipulated me, my father, this entire situation. I needed to know. No, she interrupted. You wanted control. You wanted to sit in judgment while revealing nothing of yourself. That's not seeking truth, that's playing God with other people's lives. His expression shifted, something like regret crossing his features. Amelia, it's more complicated than. The studio door swung open, cutting him off mid-sentence. Well, the great reveal at last, drawled a man from the doorway. Tall, with features that suggested family relation to Darius but arranged with less harmony, he surveyed the scene with obvious amusement. Victor, Darius acknowledged, his posture instantly stiffening. This is a private conversation. And yet so entertaining, Victor replied, stepping uninvited into the studio. His expensive suit couldn't quite disguise an aura of perpetual discontent. He turned to Amelia with a smile that never reached his eyes. Victor Elwood, cousin and board member. And you must be the latest contestant in Darius's little reality show. Victor, Darius's voice carried a warning. What? She clearly figured it out. Victor picked up a model piece, examining it carelessly. Faster than the last one, I'll give her that. The last one? Amelia asked, looking between them. Victor's smile widened. Oh, you thought you were special? The first to be subjected to the blind billionaire test. That's enough, Darius snapped. While my cousin's been playing his games, Victor continued, ignoring Darius, I've been securing the board's confidence. 2 more members flipped yesterday. The vote's next week. He set the model piece down deliberately off-center. While you've been auditioning wives, I've been taking your company. Darius's face remained impassive, but Amelia saw his hands clench. You're both disgusting, she said, picking her bag. Victor chuckled as he moved towards the door. Welcome to the Elwood family dynamics, Miss Johnson. You're caught in the middle now, whether you like it or not. Victor's departure left a charged silence in the studio. Darius moved to the windows, gazing out at the ocean vista before turning back to Amelia, who was surprisingly waiting for him to confirm if all Victor said is true, despite her anger at the moment. 5 years ago, I was negotiating a major development deal in Dubai, he began. There were security concerns, threats against wealthy Americans. My father suggested I pose as blind temporarily as a security measure, making me less recognizable. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that seemed unconscious. It worked. The deal closed successfully. But when I returned, my father proposed extending the charade. Why would he suggest that? Amelia asked, still angry but curious despite herself. He saw how differently people treated me. Potential investors spoke more honestly, believing I couldn't see their reactions. Women approached me with different motivations. His voice hardened. After years of wondering if people wanted me or my money, suddenly I had a way to know. Darius paced the length of the studio. Meanwhile, Victor began consolidating power. My father's health declined. The board started questioning my leadership. Victor claimed my disabilities made me unsuitable as next CEO. He stopped, facing her directly. Your father's business, before its troubles, had strong connections in Asian markets where we're expanding. Markets Victor has failed to penetrate. So I was handpicked to solve your corporate power struggle. Amelia asked incredulously. My father identified you as someone with both the family connections we need and personal qualities I might genuinely appreciate. His expression softened slightly. He wasn't wrong about the latter. Amelia stared at him, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. So I wasn't chosen for my supposed qualities at all. I was selected because my family's former business connections could help secure your position against Victor. That's not entirely. Stop. She held up her hand. Just stop talking. Do you even hear yourself? You've been lying to everyone around you for 5 years because it gave you an advantage. You manipulated me into considering this arrangement under false pretenses. She paced the studio, fury building with each step. And my father, he was so desperate to save our business that he was willing to trade me like a corporate asset. Did he know about your fake blindness? No, Darius said quietly. Only my parents and now Victor know the truth. How generous of you to include me in that exclusive club, she replied bitterly. You know what's ironic? I actually started to respect you. Your knowledge of sustainable architecture, your apparent determination to overcome your disability, it was all performance. Not all of it, he insisted. My interest in your work is genuine. Nothing about this is genuine. Her voice rose. You created an elaborate test no one could pass because it was based on deception from the start. Both our families used me as a pawn in their respective games. She gathered her belongings with shaking hands. I won't be part of this. Not your family's power struggle, not my father's desperate gambit. Amelia, please. No. We're done. Don't contact me again. She walked out without looking back, her footsteps echoing in the silent house. The drive back to Boston passed in a blur of anger and betrayal. By the time Amelia arrived home, night had fallen, matching her darkened mood. She found her father in his study, staring at financial documents with bloodshot eyes. You knew, she said from the doorway, making him jump. You knew about the family connections angle. That the Elwoods wanted me for business reasons. Tony's face crumpled. Amelia, don't deny it. Just tell me the truth for once. He set down his pen with a shaking hand. Robert Elwood mentioned our former contacts in Singapore and Malaysia. Said they could be valuable to both families. He looked up, pleading. But if there's any other deception with Darius's, I swear, I don't know about it. But you were willing to use me as a bargaining chip, she said, voice hollow. Your own daughter. I thought it could benefit both of us, Tony whispered. You'd have security, independence. The Elwoods specifically mentioned your background in environmental design. They said Darius needed someone who understood his vision. Amelia laughed without humor. His vision? That's almost funny. She sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. The weight of both families' expectations, manipulations, and needs pressed down on her shoulders. Her father's business still teetered on the edge of bankruptcy. The loan payment deadline loomed just weeks away. What now? Tony asked quietly. I don't know, she admitted. Every choice seems wrong. Stay and watch our family legacy crumble. Return to the Elwoods and accept their manipulative games. There's no winning move here. What Amelia couldn't yet see was that sometimes the only way forward is through. A week passed with no contact from the Elwoods. Amelia threw herself into freelance work, desperate for distraction. She'd just finished a client call when her phone rang, an unknown Rhode Island number. "Miss Johnson?" "This is Mrs. Winters." The house manager's typically composed voice carried an edge of concern. "There's been an incident at Elwood Industries headquarters. Mr. Darius has been injured." Amelia's grip tightened on the phone. "What happened?" "A suspicious fall from the mezzanine level. Security footage shows someone matching Mr. Victor's description in the area shortly before." Mrs. Winters paused. "He needs you." I can't," Amelia stammered. "We didn't exactly part on good terms." "Miss Johnson," Mrs. Winters said quietly, "I've served the Elwood family for 30 years. I've watched Darius grow from a thoughtful boy into a complicated man. His methods were misguided, but his interest in you was genuine. That doesn't excuse." "Of course not. But he's alone now. Mr. Robert is traveling abroad, and with Victor's likely involvement, the family circle has shrunk considerably." After ending the call, Amelia paced her apartment, conflicted. The manipulation, the lies, all warranted her anger. Yet something pulled at her. Not pity, exactly, but a whisper of connection she couldn't quite dismiss. 3 hours later, she stood in the doorway of a private hospital room. Darius lay against white pillows, his confident posture replaced by the vulnerability of injury. A bandage wrapped around his forehead, and bruises darkened one side of his face. His eyes, uncovered now, no glasses in sight, opened as she entered. Recognition, then surprise crossed his features. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice raspy from pain medication. Amelia, seeing how vulnerable and weak he looked now, moved closer to his bedside. "I'm still trying to figure that out myself." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them until Darius shifted, wincing with the movement. "Victor pushed me," he said simply. "Security cameras caught just enough to be suspicious but not enough to be conclusive. Very convenient. Why would your own cousin try to harm you?" Amelia asked, settling into the visitor's chair. "The board vote is in 3 days. With me incapacitated." He let the implication hang in the air. "You should tell the police. And reveal that the supposedly blind CEO has perfect vision? Victor's counting on my silence." His laugh held no humor. "He knows I've trapped myself in my own deception." Days passed with Amelia returning each afternoon. Their conversations, stripped of pretense by the stark hospital setting, gradually shifted from cautious to candid. "I'm not asking you to forgive the deception," Darius said during her 3rd visit. "But I want you to know that not everything was a lie. My interest in your architectural theories, our conversations about sustainable design, that was real. Why maintain the blindness charade for so long?" she asked. "Surely after the security threat passed." He looked away. "After years of women pursuing me for my family's fortune, the difference in how people treated me was illuminating. For the first time, I could tell who was genuine. By being disingenuous yourself." "I recognize the hypocrisy," he admitted. "It began as my father's idea but became my crutch. I couldn't figure out how to end it without admitting I'd been lying all along." On her 5th visit, she helped him walk the hospital corridor, his hand gripping hers with surprising gentleness. "We're both trapped by our family's expectations, aren't we?" he observed. "You sacrificing your career to save your father's business. Me living a charade to please mine." For the first time, Amelia felt something shift between them, mutual recognition replacing mutual distrust. When Darius was released from the hospital, Amelia helped him return to the estate. As they settled in the solarium, he asked a question that caught her off guard. "Would you like to see my actual work? Not the corporate projects, but what I care about." Curious, she agreed. He led her to a hidden door behind his studio, revealing a second workspace filled with models unlike those she'd seen before. These designs featured community-centered housing pods, rainwater collection systems, and public green spaces that doubled as food production. "These are affordable housing prototypes," he explained, touching a model gently. "Sustainable living spaces for communities displaced by climate change." Amelia examined the nearest model closely. "These thermal displacement panels, they're revolutionary. And affordable. That's the challenge I've been working on. How to make truly sustainable housing accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy." His voice carried a passion she hadn't heard before. "I fund these projects anonymously through a foundation. The board doesn't know. They'd consider it a distraction from profit-centered development." For hours, they discussed technical aspects of his designs. Amelia pointed out modifications that would improve efficiency. Darius explained his material choices. Their shared expertise created a rhythm of creative exchange that felt more genuine than any previous interaction. "Your water filtration system here," she said, pointing to a flaw in one design. "It won't scale properly for larger communities." Instead of defensiveness, Darius showed enthusiasm for her critique. He pulled out drafting paper, and together they sketched alternatives, their hands occasionally brushing as they worked. Days turned into weeks of collaboration. Darius's recovery provided the perfect excuse for Amelia's daily visits, which increasingly focused on their shared passion for sustainable design rather than family obligations or corporate politics. "We make a good team," he observed one evening as they completed an improved housing module design. What surprised Amelia most was how much she agreed. "My beautiful family, at this point in our story, these two people who began in deception are finding truth together through their shared passion. It makes me wonder, has someone in your life ever surprised you by being better than your first impression suggested? Or have you ever had to rebuild trust with someone after it was broken? You know, these moments of second chances shape us in profound ways." I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. Your stories don't just touch me, they help our entire family grow and understand the complexity of human connections. If this journey is resonating with your heart, please hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. We're building a family of people who value authentic connections in a world where facades often hide truth. Let's continue. As Darius's physical recovery progressed, his and Amelia's professional synergy flourished. The sustainable housing project, initially his solitary passion, transformed with her input. Her expertise in urban integration complemented his innovative material applications perfectly. What if we reconfigured the community spaces like this? Amelia suggested one afternoon, sketching rapidly. Creating central hubs that serve multiple functions would reduce the overall footprint while enhancing social connection. Darius studied her design, nodding slowly. "That's brilliant. It solves the density issue without sacrificing quality of life." Their working sessions often stretched into late nights, the studio illuminated only by focused task lighting as they refined models and adjusted calculations. Coffee cups accumulated as they lost themselves in the work, occasionally arguing passionately about technical details before finding solutions neither would have discovered alone. "Your approach to rainwater collection is revolutionary," Darius admitted after Amelia modified his original system. My design captured 70% efficiently. Yours pushes it to nearly 90%. But your thermal regulation system is what makes these homes truly sustainable, she countered. Most architects focus on capturing energy. You figured out how to waste almost none of it. Without discussing it explicitly, they began incorporating elements from their collaboration into Amelia's freelance projects and Darius's corporate presentations. Their professional lives intertwined as naturally as their design concepts merged. During a particularly challenging problem-solving session, Darius stepped back from the table and ran his hands through his hair in frustration. Amelia caught herself watching the gesture, realizing how familiar his mannerisms had become to her. "What?" he asked, noticing her gaze. "We're creating something better together than either of us could alone," she replied honestly. "I never expected that." His smile, not the polished one he'd worn during their first meetings, but something genuine and slightly crooked, reflected a professional respect neither had anticipated. The transition from purely professional collaboration to personal connection happened gradually, in quiet moments between design discussions. "Why architecture?" Amelia asked one evening as they took a break on the balcony overlooking the ocean. The sunset painted the water in shades of gold and rose. Darius leaned against the railing. "My grandfather took me to Barcelona when I was 10. Seeing Gaudi's work, how he blended structure with nature's patterns, it was like discovering magic existed in the real world." "Is that why your designs incorporate so many natural elements?" He nodded. "What about you? What drew you to environmental design specifically?" Amelia watched the horizon, gathering her thoughts. "I grew up watching my father run our family business. He taught me the value of creating something that outlasts you." Her voice softened. "But I also saw how draining it was, maintaining something that wasn't truly his passion. And sustainable architecture is yours." "Completely. I believe how we build today determines what kind of world exists tomorrow." She turned to him. "That's why your housing project matters so much. It's not just shelter, it's hope designed into physical form." Other evenings brought different revelations. Darius described his mother's early death, the complicated relationship with his demanding father. Amelia shared her struggles balancing family loyalty with personal ambition. "Sometimes I resent how trapped I feel by my family name," he confessed during one sunset conversation. "Everyone sees Elwood first and me second, if at all." "Is that why the blindness deception continued so long?" she asked, not accusingly but with genuine curiosity. "Partly." He met her eyes directly. "It became addictive, being seen differently. But now—" He hesitated. "I prefer being seen for who I am, especially by you." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard, along with the realization that she'd begun to see the real Darius Elwood, and what she saw increasingly intrigued her. The moment that shifted their relationship forever came unexpectedly. They'd spent hours refining a particularly challenging aspect of the water reclamation system for the housing project. Midnight had come and gone, evidenced only by empty coffee cups and the moon's position outside the studio windows. "Try this configuration," Amelia suggested, adjusting a valve position on the digital model they'd been developing. Darius ran the simulation again. Numbers flashed across the screen before settling on a steady flow rate that exceeded their target by 15%. "It works," he said, voice filled with disbelief. "How did you?" "I remembered something from my graduate thesis about pressure differentials in closed systems." She grinned, the triumph of the breakthrough lighting her face. We just needed to reverse the conventional wisdom. They stared at each other, the shared victory creating a moment of perfect understanding between two minds equally passionate about their craft. Darius moved closer, hesitant but drawn forward by something stronger than caution. "Amelia," he said softly, "I know how this began, with manipulation and arrangements and family expectations. But that's not what this is anymore. At least, not for me." She looked up at him, conflicting emotions crossing her face. "I know," she replied. "It hasn't been about that for weeks now." His hand moved to her cheek, a question in the gesture. She answered by leaning slightly into his touch. The kiss that followed was gentle, uncertain, two people aware of their complicated history yet unable to deny their present connection. When they finally separated, Amelia's expression remained serious. "You know, this doesn't erase everything that happened." "I know," Darius acknowledged. "We still have our families, our obligations, our past mistakes. And Victor's threats to your company." He nodded. "But for the first time, I feel like those things don't define what's possible between us." Something real was growing from artificial beginnings, fragile still, but undeniably alive. But that fragile trust building between Amelia and Darius lasted exactly 2 weeks before shattering. While they were reviewing construction estimates for a prototype housing unit, Mrs. Winters came in announcing Victor's arrival. "Sorry to interrupt this touching scene," Victor said, strolling into the studio without waiting for invitation. "But I thought Amelia might want to see these before things progress any further." He tossed a folder onto their workstation, several documents spilling across their carefully arranged plans. Darius reached for them, but Amelia was faster. "What is this?" she asked, scanning the first page. "The full marriage contract your father signed," Victor replied, watching her face with cold satisfaction. "Take a look at section 12, paragraph 3. It's quite illuminating." Amelia flipped to the indicated section, her expression freezing as she read. "Upon completion of 1 year of marriage, controlling shares of Elwood Industries currently held in trust will transfer to Darius Elwood and his spouse jointly." "What is this?" "Insurance policy," Victor answered before Darius could speak. "The board can't remove him if he and his wife control majority shares." "Very clever, cousin." Darius stepped forward. "Amelia, I didn't know about this clause. My father must have added it without telling me." "Really?" Victor's voice dripped with mockery. "The blindness charade, the convenient timing after my alliance with board members became known, now this contract. You weren't just looking for love, you were securing your control." Amelia looked between the documents and Darius, doubt clouding her face. "Did you know?" "No," Darius insisted. "Victor's twisting this to serve his own agenda." "The numbers don't lie," Victor countered. "The timing is too perfect." Amelia gathered her belongings with shaking hands. "I need space to think." As she walked out, Victor called after her, "Ask your father what else he knew about this arrangement. The whole truth this time," he said, turning to look at Darius with a slight smirk before leaving. With a heavy heart, Amelia drove straight to her father's house, the contract papers beside her on the passenger seat. She found Tony in the kitchen, attempting to cook himself dinner, a skill he'd never mastered since her mother's death. "Did you know about the shares?" she demanded without preamble, slapping the contract onto the counter. Tony's face fell, confirming her suspicions before he spoke. "Amelia, please understand. Just tell me the truth. Did you know that this marriage would transfer controlling interest in Elwood Industries to us? He turned off the stove, shoulders slumping. Yes. Robert Elwood explained it would provide security for both our families. So this wasn't just about clearing your debts. It was about making me part owner of a billion-dollar company. Her voice trembled with anger and betrayal. Were you ever going to tell me? I thought once you were married, once you saw the good it could do. He stopped, seeing her expression. I convinced myself it would give you independence, freedom from financial worry. That you could use that position to fund your environmental projects. By tricking me into it? By hiding the real stakes. Tony reached for her hand, which she pulled away. The Elwoods approached us specifically because of your background in environmental design. Robert said Darius needed someone who understood his vision, who shared his values about sustainable development. So they researched me, Amelia said flatly. Found the perfect candidate to secure their company and further their business interests. It wasn't just strategic, Tony insisted. Robert genuinely believed you two would be compatible. Said his son needed someone with your strength and principles. Amelia laughed bitterly. Well, he was right about one thing, I do have principles. Which is why I can't be part of this arrangement anymore. Who knows, there might just be more secrets you're hiding from me. She gathered the contract papers with a sense of finality, pains evident in her eyes. Everyone has been playing me, Dad. Including you. Amelia retreated to her apartment, ignoring calls from both her father and Darius. She spread the contract papers across her dining table, alongside notes from their project collaborations and sketches they'd created together. The evidence presented two contradictory narratives, one of calculation and manipulation, the other of genuine connection and shared purpose. Both felt true, making the situation impossibly complex. Rain tapped against her windows as night fell. She stood watching the city lights blur through the water-streaked glass, feeling as though she were viewing her own situation through the same distorted lens. What's real? She whispered to the empty room. She thought about Darius, his passion for sustainable architecture that matched her own, their complementary ways of approaching problems, the vulnerability he'd shown during their evening conversations. Had it all been strategic performance? Then she remembered his face when Victor revealed the contract clause, genuine shock, then devastation as he watched her trust in him crumble yet again. Could anyone fake that level of dismay? Amelia made tea and curled up on her couch, acknowledging an uncomfortable truth. She wanted to believe him. Despite everything, she developed feelings for the real Darius who had gradually emerged from behind his deceptions. How easily we believe the worst when trust has been broken once, she murmured. She also recognized her own role in their predicament. How quickly she jumped to conclusions, assuming the worst without giving him a chance to explain. Her hurt was justified, but perhaps her judgment had been too swift. By morning, her decision was clear. She would confront Darius directly, demand to know everything, not just about the contract, but about his feelings, intentions, and vision for the future. No more proxies, no more assumptions. If their connection was real, it deserved one final chance at truth. 3 days after Victor's revelation, Amelia returned to the Elwood estate. The sky hung heavy with storm clouds that matched her determination. Mrs. Winters met her at the door with visible relief. "He's in the studio," the house manager said. "Hasn't left since you departed." Amelia found Darius surrounded by scattered papers and abandoned models. The typically immaculate space reflected the chaos of recent events. He looked up as she entered, hope and wariness battling in his expression. "I didn't think you'd come back," he said, standing. "I nearly didn't." She placed the contract on the table between them. "I need the truth, Darius. Complete honesty about these shares and what you knew." "I knew nothing about the share transfer clause until Victor showed us." His voice carried the weight of exhaustion. "I've spent the past 3 days reviewing every document, calling lawyers, trying to understand what my father did. And the clause is real, but it wasn't my idea." He passed her a stack of correspondence. "These are emails between my father and the family attorneys, dating back months. He arranged everything while I played my part in the blindness charade." Amelia reviewed the evidence, her heart sinking as she recognized the extent of manipulation from both families. "Your father designed a contract that would secure your position. Mine concealed the full implications from me." She looked up at him. "We've both been pieces on their chessboard." Darius moved closer, stopping just short of reaching for her. "We've both been manipulated, Amelia. But what's grown between us, the work we've done together, the connection we've built, that's ours alone. They didn't plan for us to actually care about each other." The simple truth of his words penetrated her defenses. Their families had arranged their meeting for all the wrong reasons, but what had developed afterward belonged uniquely to them. "Where do we go from here?" she asked softly. "Before we decide anything," Darius said, pulling a folder from his desk, "there's something else you should see." Inside were security reports and financial documents that painted a disturbing picture of Victor's activities over the past year. "After my accident, I hired a private investigator to look into Victor," Darius explained. "These are his findings." Amelia examined the documents carefully. They revealed a pattern of tampering with company reports, undermining Darius's projects while taking credit for successful ones, and systematic efforts to turn board members against him. "He's been working to discredit you for years," she observed. "It gets worse." Darius accessed a secure server on his computer, pulling up security footage from Elwood headquarters. "This is from the day of my fall." The grainy video showed Victor entering the maintenance area near the mezzanine shortly before Darius's accident. A later clip captured him removing something from the railing where Darius had fallen. "He tampered with the safety rail," Amelia whispered, horrified. "He could have killed you. He's desperate. The board vote is tomorrow, and despite his claims, he hasn't secured enough support to oust me." Over the next several hours, they pieced together Victor's scheme. His alliance with certain board members was based on fabricated performance reports. His supposed success in Asian markets, where Amelia's family had connections, was largely fictional. "We need to present this evidence to the board," Amelia said, organizing the documents methodically. "We?" Darius asked, a hint of hesitation in his voice. "Your cousin tried to seriously harm you and has been systematically undermining your company. That affects the affordable housing projects we've been designing together." She met his gaze directly. "I have a stake in stopping him too." Working together through the night, they compiled evidence, prepared presentations, and developed a strategy that would expose Victor while protecting the company's stability. Their different perspectives created a stronger case than either could have built alone. The following week transformed both their lives as they each reclaimed agency from those who had tried to direct their paths. Darius confronted his father via video call from Switzerland, where Robert Elwood was supposedly recovering from health issues, conveniently absent during the company crisis. "I've discovered the contract terms you concealed from me," Darius stated calmly, his newfound confidence evident. "Using me as a puppet while you pulled the strings ends today." His father's excuses about protecting the family legacy fell flat against Darius's resolve. "I'm capable of running this company without deception," Darius concluded. "From now on, I make my own decisions, personal and professional." Meanwhile, Amelia sat across from her father in their family home, having a parallel conversation. "I understand you wanted to protect me and our family business," she acknowledged. "But disguising a business arrangement as concern for my future wasn't fair to anyone." Tony nodded slowly, acceptance replacing desperation in his eyes. "You've always been stronger than I gave you credit for. What will you do now?" "I'm developing a sustainable business model for our stores, one that honors our legacy while adapting to current markets." Her voice strengthened. "And I'm making my own choices about my personal life." At the Elwood Industries board meeting, Victor's carefully constructed facade crumbled when faced with the evidence Darius and Amelia presented. The board voted unanimously to retain Darius as CEO and launch an investigation into Victor's activities. Afterward, standing in the company's rooftop garden, Darius and Amelia watched the sunset together. "We've been defined by family expectations our entire lives," he reflected. "Now we're writing our own story. On our terms," she agreed. "No arrangements, no deceptions." He took her hand tentatively. "Partners." "In every sense that matters," she replied, intertwining her fingers with his. Together, they turned toward a future of their own design. 1 year after their first meeting, Darius invited Amelia to the garden where she had first suspected his deception. Spring had transformed the space, wildflowers replacing the formal arrangements that had once defined it. The change reflected their own journey from artifice to authenticity. "This place holds complicated memories," Amelia remarked as they walked along the newly created natural pathways. "That's why I chose it," Darius replied. "It represents where we started and how far we've come." They reached a stone bench overlooking the ocean, the evening light casting gold across the water. Darius took a deep breath, his typical confidence momentarily replaced by nervous energy. "I've prepared a new contract," he said, producing a small velvet box from his pocket. Amelia raised an eyebrow. "An interesting choice of words." "Intentional ones," he assured her, opening the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "This represents everything the original arrangement wasn't, a choice freely made, not an obligation forced upon us." He took her hand gently. "No shares, no arrangements, no family pressures, just us. Two people who found something real in the most unlikely circumstances." Amelia studied the ring, emotion catching in her throat. "It's beautiful." "Before you answer," he continued, "you should know what you're agreeing to." "I'm still learning how to be completely honest. I'll make mistakes. The company will always demand attention. My father will never fully approve of my choices." "Are those the terms?" she asked with a small smile. "Those are the challenges. The terms are yours to set." She took the ring but didn't put it on immediately. "I have terms of my own, complete honesty, equal partnership, and the freedom to build our own legacy, not just continue our families." "I can see clearly now," he said softly, "and what I see is a future with you." She slipped the ring onto her finger. "Then my eyes are open too, and I choose you." The following year unfolded as a testament to their shared vision. Rather than merging their professional lives completely, they established a pattern of independent growth alongside collaborative projects. Amelia revitalized her family's business, transforming Johnson's Home Goods into a showcase for sustainable home products. The flagship Boston store now featured locally crafted furniture, energy-efficient appliances, and home goods made from recycled materials. The business model she developed allowed her father to retire comfortably while preserving the family legacy in a form relevant to contemporary consumers. Meanwhile, Darius redirected Elwood Industries' considerable resources toward sustainable development. The board initially resisted but couldn't argue with the positive public response and increasing profits. Their affordable housing prototypes moved from concept to reality, with pilot communities breaking ground in coastal areas affected by climate change. Their most meaningful collaboration emerged from an unexpected place. During a visit to one of Darius's construction sites, they met a group of teenagers from the surrounding low-income neighborhood, fascinated by the building process but lacking pathways into such careers. These kids could have brilliant ideas but no access to resources, Amelia observed afterward. This conversation sparked the creation of the Foundation Center, a place where young people from disadvantaged backgrounds could learn entrepreneurship, sustainable design, and business skills. Located in a formerly abandoned warehouse, the center combined classroom spaces with workshops where ideas could become tangible projects. They funded it jointly, neither wanting the center to be solely an Elwood or Johnson initiative. Instead, it represented their shared belief that talent deserves opportunity regardless of circumstance. On the day the center opened, they watched a 16-year-old girl demonstrate her design for affordable solar lighting to a group of potential investors. "This is the legacy I want to build," Darius said quietly. Amelia squeezed his hand. "This is just the beginning." Their wedding finally occurred on a clear autumn day, 3 years after their first meeting. Rather than choosing either family estate or a traditional venue, they held the ceremony at the Foundation Center. The main atrium had been transformed with living plants and sustainable materials created by the center's students. The guest list was small: family members who had earned their trust, friends who had supported their journey, and the first graduating class from the center's programs. No press, no business associates seeking connections, just people who genuinely cared about them as individuals. Amelia wore a gown designed by a young fashion student specializing in sustainable textiles. Darius chose a suit made by a local tailor from the neighborhood surrounding the center. Their rings were crafted from recycled metals by an artisan who taught workshops to the center's students. As they stood together under an archway of living bamboo and flowering vines, the setting sun streamed through the building's carefully designed windows, bathing them in golden light. The structure itself, with its perfect balance of natural elements and innovative technology, stood as a physical manifestation of their partnership. "I once pretended blindness to find someone who would see beyond appearances," Darius said in his vows. "Instead, I found someone who saw through me, who challenged my deceptions and demanded truth. Thank you for seeing both my flaws and possibilities." Amelia's eyes shimmered with emotion as she responded. "I came into your life because of circumstances neither of us controlled, ready to sacrifice myself for my family's sake. Instead, I discovered that some things are worth a second look, that genuine connection can emerge from the most unlikely beginnings." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, applause rose from those gathered to witness this moment, not an arrangement fulfilled, but a choice freely made by two people who had found their way to authenticity together. "My beloved family, as we near the end of this journey together, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me your precious time and attention today. In a world filled with distractions, the gift of your presence here means more than you know. It's what gives purpose to these stories I share." You know, today's story reminds us that true connections can develop in unexpected places, even through difficult beginnings. Sometimes the relationships that test us most become the ones that transform us deeply. If this story touched your heart today, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so we can continue sharing these special moments together. Each time you join me for these journeys, it strengthens our community in ways that fill my soul with gratitude. Your presence here means everything to me. What part of this story resonated most with you? Was it the struggle with family obligation that Amelia faced? The challenging journey toward authentic trust between her and Darius? Or perhaps the courage they both found to start again on their own terms? I would be so grateful if you'd share your thoughts in the comments below. I truly value hearing from you and learning how these stories connect with your own experiences. I promise to continue bringing you meaningful narratives that reflect our shared humanity, stories that challenge, comfort, and connect us across our differences. As you continue your own journey, may you find the courage to be authentic, the wisdom to see beyond appearances, and the love that transforms even the most difficult beginnings into beautiful new chapters. Until next time, I hold you in my heart.